This is a test of the City of Black audio system.
About that time, we're going to open the meeting. Welcome to the Community Development Agency meeting on June 2023. The following meeting to order. Pastor Mulberry, could you please?
Good evening, everyone. Father, again, thank you for your loving kindness and for the multitude of your tender mercy. God, we thank you because you brought us together once again for the business of the city. And we pray for the wisdom and guidance that's necessary to move forward. We thank you, dear God, for all your many benefits and blessings that you have truly bestowed upon this city. We pray even now, God, that you will cover us, protect us, and keep us. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Emily, thank you, Madam Mayor. Commissioner Will Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Rufus Barham. Commissioner Justin Campbell.
Present.
Commissioner Tammy McCaskill.
Here.
Commissioner Terry Turner.
Here.
And for the record, Teresa Jackson is absent. And you're here, Madam, that'll be great.
That's okay. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from April 10th?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, thank you. We're going to open the floor up to public comments. The yellow speaker card are located near the doorway. If you'd like to speak on a particular agenda item, please note that number on the card. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and no action will be taken on those items. Anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Moving on to agenda items. Number 1, discussion direction. Is that going to be Thomas or you? Ms. Thomas? Regarding 2019 amendment to Florida Statute 163.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. How are you this afternoon?
Thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. There was an amendment to, and it's a part of your package, that there was an opinion issued concerning CRA funding. And what has happened is the language in the previous statute has been changed. Language that they had been relying on was including but not limited to allocating funding for special events and promotions. That language has been changed recently, and now the language reads, and it's section 163.387, paragraph 6, and the language has been amended to be very restrictive, and it says can only be used for the purposes specified in paragraph C. There's an extensive list of the allowed allocations, and that's it. So it was just those 5 words that were changed, including but not limited to. And then it was changed to amended to read only for the purposes specified in paragraph C.
Okay, and since this was effective October 1st, 2019, for
Yes.
our purposes, it's now. So for the course care program, for example, that has been in place, that immediately doesn't exist anymore, essentially.
I'm sorry.
The cost share program where people and organizations can request some funding to offset their costs for an event that's been in place for a while. Based on this language, does that program now no longer exist?
That's correct.
And it takes effect immediately.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions?
I do, for the legality of it. Since it went into effect in 2019, and we have allocated funds, what impact would that have on us if in for the funds that we've already dispersed?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones, would you repeat your question?
Due to this amendment being a 2019 amendment. And we have dispersed, correct, when years 2019, 20, 21, and 22, and 23. They, what repercussions do we have for doing that, if any?
Well, it depends on any action that the state might take in this. But at this point, we're just hoping that no further action will be taken. This is something that has been, I think every other jurisdiction probably has been doing the same thing. And so we're just sort of catching up now.
As long as we see, since right now we're good.
Yes, sir. As long as we don't receive anything in the mail.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay. Move on to budget recommendations from the TIF districts.
Tucker on the line.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes, sorry, I'm here.
We're on the second item on the agenda, discussion budget recommendations from TIF districts.
Yes, so we held a noticed meeting for residents of the 3 districts and gathered all of their suggestions for the budget, and it's in the summary of the item inside your packet, the different districts, what they asked for. I'm pulling mine out right now. I apologize. In just a second. Oh, here it is. So in the north, they asked for brick street repairs, specifically North 3rd Street, stormwater repairs, again, specifically on North 3rd, and then sidewalk replacement district-wide. The south asked for traffic calming, specifically on Short Krill, Laurel, and River Streets, repairs to streets, the brick intersections at River and Kirkland. They're saying that the difference between the asphalt and the brick causes the house to shake due to high speed of the traffic. And the manhole on South 8th were mentioned specifically. Restoring and turning on the gas street lights is something they would like to see, as well as landscaping. In the central, the Main Street program support was mentioned. Downtown parking or a parking garage was mentioned. The possibility of a dedicated code enforcement officer for the different TIF districts. Riverfront park maintenance. Street, sidewalk, and lighting improvements. Landscaping and trash can replacement downtown were the items that were specifically mentioned by the residents that attended the meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. At the last meeting, I requested a financial statement for this year and maybe last year. I still haven't received it. If y'all don't want me to have me, let me know. I'll just stop coming to meet.
Oh, no, sir. My apologies if that didn't get to you. I apologize. It was an oversight. I'm sure on my part, and I can get that to you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to have a copy of the financials for this year and last year if possible, and the actual expenditures that were made last year and this year if possible.
Mm-hmm. I will make a note of that right now, and I apologize again that fell through the cracks.
Actually, Ms. Tucker, that's not an assignment for you. You will get that, sir, with the budget. So I'll get with Ms. Cardy when she gets in on Wednesday. You get 2 prior fiscal years, budget and actual. So we'll try and get that out to all board members.
Yeah, I'll just try to get up to speed.
Yeah, no, I apologize that you didn't get it, sir.
Thank you.
So Mayor, related to this item, this is kind of a report, but it's also a reminder that your budget workshop is coming up, I believe, next month for the CRA. Sonny, do you mind reminding everybody when that date is? while she's looking for that, this is an appropriate time, for you all to advise us. If you see anything on this list that you definitely want us to include in the first draft for presentation to you, or if there's anything that you don't want included in that first draft. And that's a good segue into item number 3, which is your specific budget priorities.
I have a question about the dedicated code enforcement officer for the TIF district. So are they asking, can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes, sir. So this is something that you will see as a typical eligible expense. Florida statute 163 is specifically for the elimination of blight and the stabilization of the tax base. So code enforcement, as long as it's over and above what the municipality provides, is an eligible expense. So what you'll typically see is not hiring a specific code enforcement officer, but contracting with a company to come in and do inspections and start and administer cases within that district or districts.
And that contract can be in place for the time period needed, so if after 2 years, everything's just ducky, then that person doesn't have to, that contract doesn't have to be extended yet, can be time limited.
Correct. That's up to the CRA to negotiate and the commission to ratify, yes.
But it says, in additional code enforcement officer, it doesn't.
And again, some of these items were relayed verbatim based upon what the residents requested. So I'm stating what would be better would be contracting with a company, which we do have a continuing services request for qualification out for planning services right now, and this falls within that scope of works. So if it is something that the board wanted to move forward with, we could include a budget amount and then also come to the board with the scope and fee at a later date.
Yeah, I would kind of like to know what the scope of these before I say amen to something like that. To be honest with you, I don't know what the rest of the board feels.
I feel the same way in terms of, understanding that the cost associated with it and the amount of work. I mean, we're talking about 3 districts, we're talking about the south, north, and the central. And north is really, really small, super small. So you dedicate an officer in those areas, you're gonna run out of work. You're gonna really run out of work. And so could we reallocate that individual to just citywide? We just need to understand and know the scope of the work. And then 2, being in CRA districts, which is a little bit different than just non-CRA districts. Most people in CRA districts help take care of their own community for the most part, and they meet at least monthly. Well,
They used to.
I know they meet frequently, supposedly, and they, all the priorities and different things that they need, they work through their president or whoever to help address those needs. So I think we need to really kind of draw some of these things out and get it for the book.
The North Chip District is not, that's the same size essentially almost.
Yeah.
It goes all the way to 11.
No, 4th Street.
No, that's the historic.
Okay.
The Chip District goes all the way to 11.
Okay.
It's a pretty wide swath. There's a lot of code.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
could you use the same code enforcement officer for both of the CRA districts as long as they remain in the district?
So, yes, what we would advise you to do is to not hire a code enforcement officer, but to contract with a company, because you could measure the actual deliverables. You could say there's this many structures within the district, and then we have a much more defensive way of allocating the cost, because you know how many hours or structures go into that baseline cost. So the cost would be spread between all 3 districts, but you wouldn't have the salary of a person. It would just be a company.
You wouldn't have the benefits.
Correct.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Not to throw the shade or anything like that. I think we should also look at the productivity of the code enforcement officers that we currently have. And to Commissioner Bowen's point, and found the productivity that they have, and they may have more capacity than we think versus taxing the tip districts to pay for someone else to come in, whether it's contractor or hire somebody. So if we have capacity, I mean, we're still driven more. And that might be something. Do our reports for code violation, do it substantiate us needing that particular dedicated code enforcement. So what do we have that in numbers to say that, hey, listen, we're so backed up, we need an additional office? Do we have anything like that? You follow me?
So I wanted to make a feasible decision, we would need those reports,
The assessment,
and, okay,
right?
as well as the financial report as well.
Yes.
Like, the financial report, how much it's gonna cost to contract out, what Jonathan is recommending, what staff is recommending. And Jonathan, have you had an opportunity to look at a needs assessment report to see if
No, that is a conversation with Mr. Cutright. But I do have a note here to basically talk to him about the capacity of his existing staff. And I think we'll bring all that information back at a later date so y'all can make an informed decision.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else on this?
Someone looks up the date, it is July 20th at 2:30 p.m. That is your CRA budget workshop.
What's the date?
July 20th at 2:30 p.m.
Okay, Mr. Russo, and that's, I did ask, so in the start of the meeting, please try to fill out a copy of the stock, the agenda item, yeah, I know, but come up, we'll let you come up this time, but public comment, of course, come on up. Give your name and address for the record, 3 minutes.
3 minutes, if I get 3 minutes, we got all these topics to discuss.
You gotta get it out. Just turn the mic on.
Got 3 minutes. Vito Russo, 415 Emmett Street.
Okay, just, let's go, go
I
ahead.
said it's not the first time that you've been before us, nothing has changed.
Well, can I come up here multiple times on multiple topics? I mean, is that so much to ask, really?
You didn't ask that, you made an assumption.
Mr. Russo, just go, please.
First question that I had that I couldn't get answered last time we had a budget meeting was, how much money is in the South Fork?
That's all. Jonathan, can you answer if you want more information about it?
I don't have that information in front of me right now, but I can find out.
And what's it producing on an annual basis? We don't know that either, I'm sure. When does it sunset? When's the program sunset?
2042, I believe.
A question for Ms. Tucker. Does she have all the information she needs in order for the South Historic District to get the grant from last year's Porch Fest?
Ms. Tucker, but I think we just discussed the cost share and the fact that with the change in the verbiage to the statute that went into effect in October 2019, we can no longer issue money, and that Jonathan or Mandy, can you please clarify?
Based on the direction we were just given, we can no longer expend funds for promotional activities.
So that means that we're not going to be promoting Blue Crab next year?
You're not going to give them money, yes, they're not going to be eligible for the school. Now, it depends on, yes, this is the CRA funds, for the CRA.
So you're going to give them money through general fund?
We don't know that yet. They're going to come back to us and share their important information, but we don't have that yet. That will be on our June 22nd meeting agenda, I believe.
So basically, all these events that are gonna be funded in an alternative manner, because you have Christmas parade as an example. Are you gonna fund that? I mean, we took a lot of heat for that one.
We are going, can't tell you yet what's gonna happen with the Christmas parade, but at this point, the funding we cannot use CRA funding for promotion for state staff.
Okay, so then we couldn't expect anything from last year's grant. Basically, what happened is last year, I mean, you gave us a grant last year, right?
I wasn't here. Jonathan?
The complete application for last year's event was never turned in. I received a package on my chair from you middle of last week, but the application was never presented to the CRA board because it was not complete.
Okay, so we were given a grant. And then subsequently, I turned in, after the festival, I turned in the required information. And then I was informed that there was no grant application. So then the logical question is, how do we get a grant if we didn't have an application? So we had problems with receiving our grant about the previous year. So we just thought it was.
I can't speak to that, but all I can tell you is any grant award is contingent on you completing the requirements. We don't get funding unless you complete any grant anywhere that I've ever been involved in. You have to put all the requirements in a certain timeline to get the funding. And unfortunately, in this situation, unfortunately, state statute has changed and doesn't allow us to fund the CRA monies, any events, promotions, that sort of thing.
So we're.
And we can get you a copy of that change.
So so in regards to any of the other events, how are they going to come before the city and request funding?
We don't know that yet. If they do, then we'll deal with that on a case by case basis, but in terms of CRA monies, that it's not funding we can use for that for events anymore. I mean, and you have 3 minutes, why not, Mr. Now already up.
All right, well, I've got in
The
regards.
3 minutes are off though.
Okay, the last thing we're gonna talk about is the speed traffic deal. Speed traffic deal, basically, we would recommend, I think a roundabout would be the best thing, but if we spent money on the speed limit radar signs, they're about $3,000 a piece. They've been known to be effective. So we would encourage that the budget would incorporate that item.
Thank you. Okay, and we kind of segued into the next thing, which is budget priorities, in that we're going to need more information to make the determinations. Is there anything else? City manager, in terms of?
No, it's just an opportunity. If any of the board members have anything specific that they want included in the first draft of the budget. Obviously, you've got your workshop and then a second workshop, so there's plenty of time to add things. We just want to make sure that we're preparing the most complete first draft for your consideration. And if you want to just send those to mine and Ms. Hardy's attention later as you think of them, that's fine as well.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
what was that date again? The 20th of July at 2:30?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on budget priorities? You say?
No, I was just saying it's already.
Yes. Okay, we're moving on to reports. The Small Business Development Center second quarter report, January to March 2023. Mr. Paul?
Madam Mayor, commissioners, staff, anybody else attending, hello. Hope you had a good Monday. I'd just like to say, first thing in the morning, we get greeted with, hey, it's happy Monday. Well, I like to say, hey, it's happy Monday at the end of the day. So it's happier to me. Anyway, in front of you, you should have a success story that I wrote for Gym City Coffee. Now, I want to make a couple points with this. Gym City Coffee is named after the city of Palatka. So what happened with them is they tried to locate inside the business district on St. John's Avenue. They tried 3 different locations, 3 different times to try to be here. Neither of the locations they attempted were successful. So they ended up going to Crescent City and eventually ended up in Palatka. So the point I'd like to make is, you know, I'm sure you've heard it a lot before about being ready for businesses coming into town. We do have lots of issues going on. I know that the commission's working on it, the CRA to remove blight and that sort of thing, but to somehow encourage the business owners to update their facilities so that when businesses are ready, willing, and able to come in and move into town, that there are places for them. We got lots of people that actually fit this category that come here looking for space and end up going somewhere else. So the point that I would like to make is to encourage getting the facilities, the businesses, the retail spaces that we have here up to speed as quickly as possible so that we can get them filled up and become more prosperous. So that was the main reason behind the success story for Gym City Coffee. I did write it, so it should be a little bit entertaining too.
And when you say given that information, what were the specifics in regard to the locations in the city that were an issue? Was it because they weren't like box tenant ready? Were they looking to buy? Was that, what was the obstacle? Some quick obstacle points.
Okay, Madam Mayor, so one of the places was on St. John's Avenue, but the structure itself needed too much improving, and then there were like landlord issues. Who's gonna be responsible for doing what and that sort of stuff, but there were issues like that to where it wasn't really a usable space. And then the second attempt was with one of the buildings that was gonna get renovated downtown, which never ended up getting renovated downtown. So they were, running into issues like that, but they were very much looking for space in town, trying to find a home. And they ended up in Malacca as it is. So they very much would like to come back to the city here into the future, because where they have now, grow it within probably a year or two.
Well, and then, those were obviously all private properties, which we have not a lot of control over. But certainly I think it's a worth a point of discussion as to how, when we come up with grant concepts, what could be facilitate that, have everybody have some ownership in it, whether it's property or the CRA, maybe, because those are things we look to in the future.
Yes, and I'm very much in favor of the blight resolution projects that are undergoing. If it's not brought up to speed somehow, then, all the other cities that I'm aware of, West Palm Beach, Jacksonville, Lake City, if it wasn't worth saving, then it eventually got bulldozed and brought in anew. I know that's a sore topic. It is a sore topic. Moving right along. Okay, so some of the hours that I've spent on outreach, professional development and training. There's been over 70 hours worth of professional outreach, about 4 for training, and so far about 36 for workshops. So one of the questions I'd like to ask the commissioners and the board here is, what sort of workshops would you like to see for the summer? Basic startup workshop, or does anybody have any ideas about a specific topic for a workshop that you're just dying to see for the small businesses?
The basic startup workshop wouldn't hurt.
Okay, well, that's what I was planning on doing, but I just wanted to see if there were any other ideas out there. So the basic startup workshop, I'll hold one of those coming up fairly soon.
Into the health checks of some of the businesses that's in the area, whether it's CRA area or otherwise, to see how they're doing, what their needs may be. Not every business owner knows every aspect of a business to make that business sometime sustain itself or remain successful. And so they could be very well at making a widget or a service, but they may be not so well in finance or whatever else it may be. So I think reaching out in that regard will be a big one.
Okay, thank you very much. As far as the financing, the way that it gets reported to the state in the database that keeps it up, it's a little crazy. But last year there was roughly 2.5 million that didn't get reported. Last year it got reported this year. So far this year, I've done 3.7 as far as helping clients, mostly in Putnam County, get funding. So there are 8 startups plus another one I just got to the finish line here 2 weeks ago. That would be an additional 40,000. It's ongoing, it's current. There's businesses out there are still getting loans. Well-qualified businesses, especially those that have a lot of equity, obviously are doing very well getting financing at this point. Commissioner?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This, as I look through it, appears to be very much resourceful. Is this something that, is electronic, or is it only in the paperback? How would we get this into the hands of people? Because I think some of the questions, even going back to the startup and the some of the stuff that you wanted to address, I think it's clearly laid out. And I think this could be a real eye for some of those who are exploring the options of starting a business.
Yes, the Commissioner, the startup guide that's in front of you, I gave each one of you a copy to take a look at. This is the items that would be covered up or covered in a startup workshop. And these are items that I can help guide a client through and do pretty much daily process of doing that. So as far as I know, it's not, but we have lots of webinars that cover the basic same thing. So it is available via webinars, and I teach those webinars also. But this is out there just for you guys to take a look at, because I think we should focus on startups and small businesses for the community. Again, what your vision is for the city, and how you want to fill up your space, how do you want to be known? And I'm assuming that most of that is via small businesses. So I'm here to help out in any way I can. Are there any questions?
I think I asked this question before in reference to like the startup, the financial literacy and how to obtain loans or things of that nature. And we realized that people that go through the program are not very successful once they would go to finance. Have we overcome that obstacle yet? Found a way to partner with local banks to try to get funding for these folks? Where are we with that?
Okay, so there are several SBA certified bankers in the Jacksonville region that specialize in small businesses with SBA type guaranteed loans, as little as $50,000. The question is of course, what is the credit rating of the person? And other such things that go in the 5 C's of credit, if you remember me going over that like a year ago. So as long as the person's qualified and they have equity, a lot of people just don't have any equity saved up. And so that's the cash down that they need to secure the loan, just like going and buying a house or a car. They need that. And so a lot of people actually lack the cash down part of it. So that part hasn't really changed.
So again, you jump through all the hoops and get to the finish line and can't cross it. That's what we need to help. That's the part that somebody needs to discover. I mean, you can go, you check all these boxes. What good is it gonna do when they get there? That's, I guess, what I'm saying to you. What I would like to see your agency do is bring that piece home. So you can come in and you can tell some of those success stories. Those people have them. It's for the people, you just said, starting up. I know starting up business is hard. I think a few of us have been on business ventures, and that is the hardest part. And unless you come from money, you got excellent credit coming out of blocks. That's a challenge. And I want to see you come up with a solution, at least help those to go through this program, because when you taking out your time and go through, make all these steps happen for you, and then you get to the finish line, it's hard, and people give up, people quit, and they may have some good ideas and they can't get financing. But I applaud your efforts, but I would love to see that, getting off third base and getting home. So
There might be other ways, like crowdfunding, and maybe a local crowdfunding type thing, but that's not going to fully fund any startup in town. So that just gives you, maybe 10, 15% if you're successful with the local crowdfunding.
Is there a resource for financial literacy? So if somebody comes to you, wants to start a business and says, oh, by the way, I have no money and my credit score is 500. Is there a way to redirect them back to somebody who can educate them to get to that point of the bottom line? Because at that point, that's a no starter. I'm just using that hypothetically, but you know, that person doesn't have a snowball's chance. So is there another agency or is it something you do that can stop that person on their financial literacy path? So
That's almost a daily occurrence.
okay, but then you refer them to, are you?
Well, I refer them to the credit agencies to try to improve their credit, whatever.
Is it
issues.
still overwhelming?
So, and I think there's an opportunity just in listening to what Madam Mayor said, as well as Commissioner Jones. I think there is a possibility that I'm a big proponent of keeping it local. So when you refer these individuals to credit agency, is it someone that is local? Is it someone like is it a corporate? So like there may be an opportunity for you to formulate relationships or come up with some kind of black book of local people that specializes in these things, so that we're keeping these things local and providing resources as well.
Most of the lenders I try to approach our local county first. That's my number one priority. And then I try to go, regional after.
Any additional questions? Oh, go ahead. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
that was my ask around that. Because I thought we had kind of given from the board, we had given direction to work with some of the local banks, and you're supposed to bring them in to try to help. And some of the starter companies that are businesses that we have locally. So did we not have any leverage with the local banks and maybe try to help with some funding in no way?
Well, I believe I responded to that about a year ago. I did go out and visit banks and they all have portfolios, I guess is the way to say it, of things that they do to help the community. So a portion of the loan funds that they give have to go back to the community. So, but that's up to the individual bank.
So you're talking about the community investment act?
Yes,
The other CRA? Okay.
yes, the other CR. It's a little confusing. You got two CRs.
Yeah, I know. I think there's a lot of agencies that put their money with these local banks around here. And I think if we can help grow these local businesses that's trying to start up, we can probably do a little bit more leveraging with the local banks to try to help with whatever funding we can, because that's where everybody starts, mostly with small businesses. And if small businesses fail, then the country fails. So that's all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fox.
You're quite welcome. It looks nice not to see all the plastic up there.
Yeah. Mr. Griffith, update, we're finding signage, is that you?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Reached out to a consultant, Casa Hewitt and Walpole. They're still in conversations with the Florida Department of Transportation. They have submitted the permit on behalf of the city of Palaca. It appears that the application that the state has asked us to apply under is not the application that they want to review our application under. So there's how do I put this? Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not uncommon with the Department of Transportation. They have a lot of programs in different application categories. I think once they saw what it was we were proposing versus what they were told we were proposing, they want to route us through a different application cycle. So our consultant as of today is trying to schedule a meeting to see if our application needs to be revised or if it's just a matter of resubmitting. Basically, all of that to say we haven't made it much farther than last time. And I do have those numbers that Mr. Russo requested. I could either report back now or give him.
That would be fine.
Okay. So total revenues this year were projected at $155,597. That's the city and county share collectively. And total expenditures this year was projected at $212,626. Obviously, that included some carry forward revenues from previous years.
Stephen,
Anybody else have any other questions about the wayfinding signage? Or any other topic?
If anything changed, we will bring it back up. Approval or
Of course.
All that said, we have a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Thank you all.